Steve, what thoughts went through your mind as you signed with the Senators?
Well, I was very glad to sign. I've been going on all this time, and I've been working real hard, and I'm glad I'm finally getting a chance to sign professional baseball with somebody.
Where do you go from here, and as far as your baseball playing?
Well, I leave tomorrow for Anderson, South Carolina, and I'll start out playing Class A ball in Anderson.
Tex, what impressed you most about Steve?
I'll have to say, Jim, that it was his hitting. He showed me that he could hit left-handers as well as right-handers, which you very seldom see in a kid his age.
How about positions, Tex? He's played quite a few.
Well, he's a very versatile young man, but I like him in the outfield best.
Well, I said wide open. I meant as far as getting the ball to the outside. We will concentrate a great deal on defense. As far as throwing the ball, we will probably not throw the ball as much as they did last year. When I think of wide open football, I think of getting the ball out to the flanks and wide, not necessarily throwing the ball. And with our running capabilities, running the option, for instance, I think of this as wide open football. We will present that look probably more than last year's team. However, just dropping back and throwing the ball will probably not be in that phase of the game quite as much as they were with Leo Hart previously.
I recall you said one of the first things you're going to do, you're going to have to stop people from moving the ball. Did you make any wholesale changes of personnel to bolster your defense?
We've moved some personnel from the offense to the defense, and in addition to that, we've trained some of the people who will start over on the offense. We've had some training with them defensively. We've moved some personnel around on the defense itself. Probably the most noticeable move that we've made as far as offense to defense was Ed Newman, who was an offensive tackle last year and an outstanding athlete, one of the strong wrestlers in this conference, and a big, strong fellow that moves very well. We've moved him over on the defense. We've moved a number of men in backup positions over on the defense. We feel like we will be stronger this year than previous years. We've concentrated a great deal of time and efforts in this particular area. However, defensive football is an attitude game as much as anything, and we feel that our men will acquit themselves well on the defense.
Make a run for the ACC title this year, Mike?
Well, I don't get into making I don't get into prognostication business. I leave that up to the sports writers and you people. We're going to have a good football team. However, your record is really relative to the strength of your opponents, and our schedule this year is very challenging, to say the least.
I'll tell you, I had duty on Saturday when we were scheduled to bowl, and my unit was good enough to let me off to bowl, and then I came down here and I just felt like I was going to win, and I had a couple of interviews earlier during the week, and I just, I stated that I thought I was the man to beat, and I did not think anybody could beat me. And I guess I was just fortunate. I had a lot of good breaks and just won the tournament.
Columbia must be a pretty good bowling city for you. This is 2 years in a row now for this one.
That's right, Bob. I've come to Columbia 2 years in a row for this tournament, and both years that I've come here, I've been bowling bad before the tournament started. And I don't know why, but the lanes here just seem to pull me out of a slump. And I remember last year, as soon as I finished here, I had to go to New York to bowl, and I finished fourth in New York and had a real good fall tour. This year, I'm bowling even better than I did last year when I left Columbia. And I'm going to Chicago next week, so I'm really looking forward to a good summer and fall tour this year.
George, on behalf of our WBTV Sports Department, it's a pleasure for me to present to you our Sportsman of the Week Award, and congratulations on not only that, but your fine victory here in Columbia.
Thank you, Bob. I'd like to thank you and Jim Thacker for the presentation here. This is it's a great honor for me. Thank you very much.
Jim, it kind of took us by surprise also, although we had anticipated such a move ever since the NBA announced their plans for the hardship cases. It came to a pass when we were made application by Cyril Baptiste, who attended Creighton College and has since dropped out of school and claims that he's a hardship case under the provisions of our bylaws and has made application to both the NBA and the ABA and his attorneys, one of whom, interesting enough, is Emanuel Seller's law firm, who is so influential in the in Congress and is looking very closely at our impending merger. So we are being really committed to an undergraduate draft as a result of the applications made by players through attorneys, and we're very, very sensitive to the antitrust provisions of not allowing these young men to pursue a career in basketball. I can say, Jim, however, it disturbs me greatly. I am one of the loudest advocates, I suppose, of letting the colleges flourish, and I am very disturbed at what apparently is going to be some more problems with the NCAA.
How is a hardship case determined, Carl?
Well, I'm not quite sure, Jim. I understand that the league has retained special counsel to review applications in terms of its antitrust implications, as well as setting some standards and procedures for hardship.
Well, I wish I could say so, Jim. We've been so involved with selling season tickets this summer. We really haven't been able to get in the right mental frame or, be relaxed. But I guess as best as we possibly can, we are looking forward to the coming season.
After you come off of a campaign like you had, a trip to the Tangerine Bowl against Toledo, are you optimistic about the upcoming season?
Well, we think we're going to be better, but everything's so relative, Jim. We had a fairly decent spring practice, and we probably have a little bit more talent than what we've had in the past. But a lot of it depends upon the mental attitude the boys return with. We don't have very many boys in summer school, and consequently, we don't know how many of them are in good physical shape. And it's the first indication of what kind of football team you're going to have. Now, they can write back and send us cards and saying they're running and they're doing this and they're doing that. Until we actually see them, we won't know what total dedication they may possibly have, because when a team does go to a bowl or is as fortunate as we were last year to win a championship, you don't know whether it's going to whet their appetite, whether it's going to allow them to become a little fat and lazy.
We'd like to think so, Jim. The last 11 years, very, very much a part of my life. We've thrown the football. I've been around that program, and we'll modify it somewhat. And that's certainly the type of football we'll play at East Carolina University. That's all I know, really. We think we've got an offensive coordinator that's fine as any in America, and Vito Ragazzo. So Vito will act as a stabilizing factor. But I promise it'll be in the air. Anybody wants to come see exciting football, they come to Greenville, they won't be disappointed.
Certainly, so many coaches today talk about the lack of depth. Does this affect your team?
Very, very much so. If we have a problem, that's certainly it. I think we've got more than one problem. But if we don't keep those 30 football players we got well, I promise it's going to be most embarrassing. It really is. We've got, I think, a real fine offensive team, a couple of great individual performers, a real fine defensive team. But we can't get anybody hurt. And I mentioned the teams that we play. The good Lord's going to have to be with us most of the time, or else I'm afraid that we won't have very many well when the season's over.
Sonny, you talk like a coach that certainly plans to be right in the running, the thick of things for a berth in the Tangerine Bowl. What teams in this conference are you going to have to beat to get there?
Well, Jim, you hate to put the bad mouth on anybody, but I think at this stage, I'd have to pick 3 teams, really, in our conference. I think the Citadel will be extremely difficult. I think William and Murrey has a mighty fine football team, real fine football team, and certainly they're going to be tough at Furman.
4 games with the travel and go 100%. I don't think that you're being fair to yourself, to your family, or to the organization. And I've always tried to put in a day's work.
Jerry, I know that you've always been a very highly emotional and very sensitive man. Does this particular move rule out any hopes you might ever have of getting back into coaching, either on a college or professional level again?
I don't think so, Woody. Like I said, I've never tried to plan out my life as far as what's going to happen tomorrow or what's going to happen next year at all. I think this is the nature of athletics, that every day is a new day.
Carl, where do you start this immediate search in order to find a head coaching successor?
Woody, I really don't know. It's very few times that I'm lost for words, as you know, but this was a tremendous shock for me, and one which I didn't want to really look forward to, even after Jerry told me about it. However, we've got to regroup and accept his decision as what it is, and hope that that it's in the best interest of everybody. I think it is. He feels it is, and we're going to move ahead and find ourselves the best available coach. Where we look, you know, you're limited right now because of time, so we're going to have to work very, very hard and quickly in order to bring to the Cougars the leadership that's necessary to succeed.
Yes, sir. This year is one of my best years in baseball with the Hornets. I'm proud of myself this year when they sent me to Charlotte. I had a good year to help with the ball club as most I can. That's what I've been doing this year.
And how about this ball club? I know you've been on a lot of Charlotte ball clubs. How's this one compare with others you've played on?
Well, I don't want to compare this year with the other year. With the reason, the league, I believe they've been changed a little bit. But this year with the Hornets, I say we have a great ball club, young ball club. They host a day after day, and we never lost the ball game after the last hour of the ninth inning. That was a really important one for the ball club.
Any regrets now, Manny, that you're not playing in the majors?
No, sir. No, I'm not going to say that. I even said before. I even said today. Only they made me a little mad last year when they sent me down. They made break me back. There's a big problem to me. But really, they didn't bother me because I have so many friends in the minor leagues and any cities I've been playing. And sometimes write me a letter, call me home, and that's made me feel great. Sometimes baseball is all in the money. I just have some friends. That's what I have in Charlotte. A lot of friends.
Left, right, up, back, left, right, up, back, right, left, up, back, right. All right, throw the ball. What happened to his blockers?
The principal ones we're working with are the limitation on the number of schools that a prospect can visit. The recommendation which we made to the council last week in San Francisco requires that a prospective student athlete may visit only 5 member institutions. Up until now, he's been able to go every weekend, twice a week, depending upon the availability of time. This has been a very needless and unnecessary expense on our institutions, because the young man we felt, the number of young men that we talked with who were heavily recruited, that they really knew about the top 3 schools that they were interested in, sometimes 2. So we felt 5 was more than adequate. The second area, which we felt there was a very, very inconsistent matter, was in the campus, the visitation in the young man's hometown by our recruiters. We recommended that we be limited to 2 visits in his hometown, and that on such visits no money can be spent in support of entertainment of the young man. Now, this is a drastic change, because our recruiters have found all too frequently they go to visit the young man in his home, and the mother and the father and the brothers and sisters and girlfriend are all dressed waiting to go to dinner, and this knocks the daylights out of a $100 bill. So our coaches felt that that it was fine to be able to take a young man out to dinner, but to have to go to all the expense to do this had reached proportions and was completely out of bounds. No question, this is a purview of another committee, Jim. There are many aspects of that committee which are extremely acceptable to our coaches. I don't say just our coaches in the conference, but I believe nationally. But there are some restrictions that they feel are not consistent with what they were designed to accomplish. And this is where the problem's coming up.
Do you foresee a split between the big schools and the little schools?
I believe, and this is a personal reflection, Jim, I believe that the NCAA eventually is going to have to come to the point where we do have a bicameral house, where we have one division of the NCAA responsible for the so-called major institutions, and another division responsible for the small schools, because our programs are becoming so vastly different that legislation is not appropriate to each, and yet we're voting on legislation for each other.
Well, because I hit an awful lot of greens, not because I'm long. George Newsom is not long, but he's a great match player for the reason that he hits the ball well all the time with every club. You'll hit a lot of greens, and when you're hitting a lot of greens, it's hard for the other guy to have to scramble every hole, or 2 or 3 holes. He knows he's got to get it up and down. Then when you have to do something, it's hard to do.
Well, as long as you were, though, I can remember a day when you seemed to hit the ball further than you do now.
Oh, yes. I used to be a little flippy, and I could sort of slingshot the ball, and I'd kind of throw it way inside out and hit a big loop and hook. And that thing could go forever. I could carry the ball 300 yards at times.
You make an effort to change that? Did you swing
Oh,
it
yes. I've been working with this Sam Bird, a guy I keep quoting him, in Anniston, Alabama, and he took nearly all the flip out of my golf swing. I used to be very flippy-wristed. Tommy Bolt says, the flippy-wristed kids. Well, maybe I'm not that anymore.
Now that you've won, do you have any feeling now that this might really get you going?
Well, I always said I don't feel like it's the first tournament win that makes you great, but it's what you do after you win. After you win, then you can see how good you can play because you're on the same level as you might say a Nicklaus or a Palmer or anybody as far as mentally. So just to see how good you can play after you win.
You plan to change your playing schedule any?
Very little, really. I have to change my schedule in one way, but I don't have to qualify anymore. And I haven't had to since Tucson this year, but it's because I've made cuts every week. But now I can plan myself a little better, yes.
I think I'm absolutely 1,000% against that. It's the worst thing in the world. I think if Walter Kennedy, who's commissioner of the NBA, let's get that go through, is absolutely disgraceful. I really do. They ought to have it that a kid cannot, unless it's a real hardship case. But they're sort of going hanky-panky with the hardship cases. Now, I think a kid ought to finish college. It's the same thing as this boy, Ben Crenshaw. We're going to do put a plug in here, I know it's not your network, we're going to do the men's amateur from Wilmington next week, and there's a great freshman at the University of Texas called Ben Crenshaw. He won the NCAA, he won the Eastern, he won the Southern, he finished third in the Open this year. In the U.S. Open, he finished in a tie for first last year. And Jimmy DeMerit says the kid's crazy to stay in college. He's a freshman at the University of Texas because he's giving up $100,000 a year. I think Jimmy DeMerit, who's a friend of mine, is completely wrong. He ought to stay in college. You just can't take the kid out. There's a certain maturity you get in college, and you improve your basketball or your golf, and I think they're crazy to leave, and they shouldn't allow them to leave.
Keith, congratulations on winning the North Carolina Tennis Championship and being our Sportsman of the Week.
Well, thank you, Jim. It's a real honor for me to be Sportsman of the Week, and I was just glad that I could go up to Raleigh and win this tennis tournament and play well and bring the championship back to Charlotte.
I imagine you had to be wondering when the Japanese fellow Sanji Arisawa, I believe it is, had you down 3-love.
Right. Well, I'd played well all week, and I'd played Sanji twice before, and I'd lost to him both times, oddly enough. And when he got me 3-love, I just made up my mind that I was going to try to change the tempo of the match, and so I did. I started hitting the ball real high and hitting him a lot of junk shots like a 12-year-old would do, but that changed the match, and right after that, I won 9 straight games, and so oddly enough, that was probably the easiest match I had of the last 3 matches that I played up there.
Sanji being a Japanese player, do they play the game any differently than the American style?
Well, the Japanese, of course, are a little shorter. Their games are basically a baseline game. They hit the ball real well off the ground. Their ground strokes are very, very sound, and Sanji has been able to move me around and use his ground strokes the last 2 or 3 times we played, and so by changing the tempo of the match, I was able to take that away from him. But what they'll do is they'll stay back and wait for us to come into the net and then pass us. And so I just had to change the tempo. That's all I could do.
I think that poetry is very important in my life, and I think that sports, basketball, is very important. I do those probably better than anything else. So I'm not too sure about the soul of it all, except that I write it. And you'll have to ask my opponents about the fist. I got more scars than they do, I'm afraid.
Well, what is your emotional approach to the game, Tom?
Well, I'm very emotional. I play the game very emotionally. I hope that I'll be able to approach the game as a coach a little bit more realistically, a little bit more rationally. There's some ideas that I've been sort of a, stay loose sort of guy as far as the court goes, and I've done a lot of crazy things on the basketball court. I hope that my ball players will not be as crazy as I was on the court, because I caused an awful lot of technical fouls in my day, and I'm against that. I have some definite philosophies about basketball, however, that include defense, actually, to sum it up in one word. And everything that I plan to do is going to be predicated on defense. So if my offense doesn't work, it means that my defense is broken down.
Well, I'm real happy to be on the pole. It's always a thrill to get on the pole, and the car was running real well and handling real well, and of course it made me feel good.
What can you do between now and race day when you have your car running the way it is?
Well, they have to change engines. This is our Talladega race engine, and so they're going to put a new engine in tomorrow, and then we'll run a little bit, make sure what gear we want to run, and so forth.
Who were you the most worried about in your qualifying? Who did you think would win?
Well, I figured Pete would. Pete Hamilton's been running awful good. And then, of course, I was concerned about Charlie Glotzback, too. Both of them have been running good.
Any predictions for the race?
No, it's going to be a tough race, and fans will get their money's worth like they always do, but that's about the only prediction I have.
Well, he'll need a county license of his residence if he hunts in the county only. And he'll need a state hunting license if he hunts in any county other than his resident county. And if he hunts on any of the North Carolina game lands, he'll need a $6 season permit.
What kind of hunting season, Dave, are we expecting this year? Will the weather we've had affect the hunting at all?
Well, we've had to cut the bag limit to 12, or we didn't, the Fish and Wildlife Service did, due to maybe a smaller number of doves. And the weather affects us here in that a lot of times the crops don't ripen. It'll pull the birds in like milo and silage corn. And also we need some pretty good fronts to bring the doves down from the northern states where we get most of our doves for hunting.
The Southern 500 has been called the world's greatest stock car race, and Darlington has been called the granddaddy of the super speedways. On this Labor Day, no one disputed those claims. A crowd of approximately 75 to 80,000 fans turned out to watch Bobby Allison start from the pole position in his Holman Moody Mercury. Pete Hamilton was in the outside lane of row 1 in a Plymouth. On row 2, Charlie Glotzback in a Chevrolet and Charlotte's Buddy Baker in a Dodge. Row 3, Dave Marcus and Richard Petty both driving Plymouths. And on row 4, Bobby Isaac in a Dodge, Benny Parsons in a Mercury. The first driver to go out of the race, Jabe Thomas. He went out with a blown engine, and at this point, Bobby Isaac took over the top spot as several of the leaders pitted, but Bobby Allison soon regained the lead. Debris brought out another caution flag, and when the green flag finally fell, Richard Petty moved into second place. This is what the fans wanted to see, a neck-and-neck battle between arch rivals Bobby Allison and Richard Petty. Chevrolet's hopes were wiped out when Charlie Glotzback lost control in the second turn. He damaged his Monte Carlo and was forced out. Later, G.C. Spencer and Wendell Scott tangled into third and fourth turns. Spencer's car was damaged beyond repair. He, too, had to call it quits. Then the duel between Allison and Petty resumed once again. Petty took the lead momentarily. They swapped leads a couple of times. Then Petty pitted. And when he was in the pits, pit stops all important, they left the gas cap off. Petty went back out on the track, trailing Allison just by a few car lengths, but then he was black flagged, brought in to replace that gas cap. When he did, Bobby Allison had built up better than a one-lap lead, and then he coasted to victory in this year's Southern 500. Needless to say, Bobby very happy in victory lane.
Well, I'm just thrilled to death right now. Extremely happy and a little tired. I do want to say thanks to all the people that helped me get here, especially Ralph Moody, the Holman Moody crew, Goodyear, Regal Ride, Union, and especially Gray Rock Brake Lining too. I use my brakes all day long and no problem. And all the other accessory companies that help us race after race.
Well, the fans wanted to see Bobby Allison duel Richard Petty. They got that treat for a while today, but did you have any doubt that you were the faster of the two?
Well, I felt my car was a little faster than his. It actually handled better than his in the corners. And he's a tough competitor, and I knew I had him to contend with, but late in the race something happened and he got down and kind of made it a little bit easier for me at the end.
How does this win at Darlington rank with your other victories, Bobby?
Well, it's certainly a thrill. It's something I've dreamed about ever since I was a little bitty guy, because that's how long this place has been around, and it's a real thrill.
Bobby Allison, the winner of this year's Southern 500. Jim Clayton, WBTV Sports, reporting from Darlington, South Carolina.
Well, I believe it's just a combination of people. It seems that as long as I've always been in racing, you'll have a combination that'll work, and gradually the whole thing deteriorates, and the people don't get along. And this is one of the things we've done with this. The only man still on the car that was originally on is Dan Ford. And we took everybody else off, left Dan on it, and put Bill Holman with it, who's been on a lot of different race cars for us and other people, and went back to running the car myself, and everybody seems to be happy, and we're using part of Bobby's people as the pit crew. We're using 2 or 3 of Bobby's men and the rest of our men, and it looks like it really works.
I think what racing fans note more, perhaps, is that Bobby Allison has replaced David Pearson. Has Bobby's driving made a difference?
Well, the big thing that Bobby does is you can communicate with him. I understand him, I know what he wants, and I can get it fixed so that the race car is exactly like he wants it to race it all day. As I've just Darlington all day long, we never had to make one adjustment on the car during the whole day. And we can get together and understand each other well enough that when he said he's ready to race, he's ready.
Were you expecting this big a year, knowing what was happening?
I figured we'd have a big year as soon as we had Bobby, and if we could make everything click. And after we ran the first race at Talladega, and Donnie ran first and Bobby ran second with that last lap green flag deal, I knew then we was in for a good year, barring, unforeseen incidents you would have happen.
You need one more victory to break Leroy Yarborough's single-season record. When do you expect that to come?
I don't know. We're looking for that next time around. But right now he has won 7 big races, which includes the Riverside race.
Well, Jim, I was swinging the club pretty good. I was just down on a practice tee a while ago, and I was remembering a couple of things that Toski told me, as we were talking about earlier. And I found a pretty good tempo with the driver, and that's a big stick for me. You know, if I can hit that driver and play, then I should score fairly well.
How would you describe your golf game or your swing?
Erratic. You know, sometimes it's very spastic, but when I'm swinging it good, I hit the ball very well. And I've had the biggest thing with me right now is just experience. You know, this is something you can't buy. You have to go through and acquire this experience through playing in tournaments and playing against good players. Consequently, the 3 tournaments that I played in Akron and in Boston and in Philadelphia gave me a tremendous amount of experience that I had never had before. I feel real good now. I feel a lot more confident now than I did before I entered those 3 tournaments. A lot of the choking and the gassing is gone. You know, what you've got to go through. You know, you've got to fall on your face a few times before you can achieve anything. And it's that old saying, you have to crawl before you can walk.
You've been on the spot and pressure at a very high level before facing major league pitching. Do you think that helps you in relating to pressure in golf?
There's no question about it. There's no question about it. All pressures are the same. You just relate to them in different ways. And there's no more pressure standing over a 5-foot putt, having to make a cut or win a lot of money than there is with a man on third base and no out or one out and the score tied. You have a big job to do either way, and the pressures are the same. I don't feel like there's any difference. I'm sure the pressures are the same in basketball as they are in golf and baseball, and football the same way. So my exposure to pressure through 8 major league seasons is going to be a definite asset to me.
You think you can be a big winner in golf?
Well, if I didn't, I'd be home in Savannah, Georgia, bowling.
Denny Rhino, congratulations on a fine start to the high school football season. 1 half of play, 3 touchdowns, 90 yards gained. You run back the opening kickoff, and Olympic win 72-0. Congratulations on being the WBTV Sportsman of the Week.
Well, thank you very much.
It must be a great thrill to have a big game in an opener like that.
Well, yeah, I guess it is, but my running was the linemen all blocked and everything, and there really wasn't much to run when there's a big old hole in there.
Now, tell us something about that opening kickoff you returned, 85 yards. What's it look like when you got the ball?
Well, we planned in practice to open up the middle, to make a big hole in there, and it was there when I got there, and all I had to do was cut to the outside, and that was it. And the guys were still blocking downfield when I got in the end zone.
Did you have a definite return on?
Yes, we did. And it was planned to go right up the middle and then cut to the outside.
What about this year's Olympic football team? Do you like your team's chances, maybe for a repeat performance of last year?
Well, the team has good potential this year, but we haven't become a team yet, and I feel that when we start playing or going towards the year, that we'll become a good team, and then we'll win some games.
Brother Randy was a great athlete here at Olympic High School. Does it bother you, perhaps maybe people expecting you to fill in his shoes?
No, it doesn't bother me. I just think that I have to do the best for the team and to do my best and try to help the team win some more games, and it doesn't bother me really.
But my game and my chances, and I'm going to try to win, and that's to me is the only way to go.
You setting any goals?
No goals. I'm just going to try to win as much and as many tournaments as possible. If I don't win any, it's the way it goes. I'm going to try to win every I play in.
Has this been a long time decision for you to be a professional player?
Oh, I've considered it a long time, but I think over the past few years, it's just a matter of which year and what time suited me best. And this year turned out to be the best time.
Well, I think, Jim, our key is we didn't beat ourselves too much. We made a routine defensive play. Our pitching was strong enough. Our catching was good enough. I think when we talk about baseball, we always like to say up the middle, and of course that's pitching, catching, short and second and center field. And if you evaluate this ball club, I think that you got to say it was strong up the middle.
And of course, all year long, this has been a dogfight for the Hornets. Asheville right up there with you in regular season.
It certainly had been, no doubt about it. Asheville has a fine ball club, and as our records indicate, we were 11-11 with them on the season play, and of course we just squeezed them out in that last ball game in the semifinal playoff 1-0. So it was just a great effort, and like I said, Asheville, a great ball club, and I'm just real proud of this whole ball club, really, Jim.
Well, it's been a terrific effort all year long, Harry, and congratulations once again.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Well, there's some good basketball players in the New York area, in the high school I went to in New York City, Archbishop Malloy. Brian Adrian is from there, so is Bruno Sorrentino, the freshman basketball player, who will be a sophomore now. And John Falcone is from the New York area, so I'll be looking for that type of player.
And there's an awful lot of competition in recruiting in that area too, isn't it?
Yes, I suppose all the colleges look for the New York player because he's got a lot of competition.
How about selling Davidson College up there?
Well, I think the Davidson sells itself. The homey atmosphere that you get down here, the friendly feeling you get, and the people themselves.